He had only slammed the car door a little too hard, and that alone caught the attention of the local bully behind him.
Hey, brother. What's up?
I'm not your brother.
But he showed him very little respect. The bully felt disrespected. He immediately started threatening and provoking him. Then he made an unreasonable demand. If he did not pay, he would never be allowed to use this road again.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Think I haven't killed pinche gringos like you before? Think it matters where you're from, Grink?
Where you think you going, motherfucking pissant?
Did I say you could leave?
Seeing the situation was about to get out of control, he had no choice but to lower his guard. He cautiously signaled for his assistant to get back into the car first. Then he apologized to the bully. He was just a farmer who sold vegetables. He meant no disrespect. Then he stepped aside. As the bully mocked him, he slowly walked over, opened the car door, and got back inside. The bully was still furious. He turned and walked toward the vegetable vendors. Chris did not stop the car. It was not because he was afraid. He had just returned from the battlefield, and only wanted a few peaceful days. But trouble is not something you can simply avoid. Still unable to let it go, the bully got into his truck and chased after them. It was obvious he was looking for trouble. Chris instinctively sped up, but the distance between the two vehicles kept getting smaller. Chris knew there was no avoiding it. He immediately warned Marco beside him that no matter what happened, he was not to get out of the car. Then, to Marco's disbelief, Chris slowly began to slow down. The bully stepped out of his truck with a sinister grin, bringing his men with him. Chris pretended to be unconscious, slumped over the steering wheel. One of the men walked over and dragged Marco out of the vehicle. The bully decided to deal with him first, then finish off the helpless Chris. But what the bully did not know was that, from that very moment, his life had already entered its final countdown. Every move was clean and precise, without a second of hesitation. Every strike was ruthless and decisive, leaving his opponents no chance. The three men who were killed, along with the bully leading them, had terrorized this area for years. The reason they could do whatever they wanted was because of his father, and the gang of dozens of men under his father's command. To avoid retaliation later, the three bodies, along with every weapon and every belonging, had to disappear. The two men dug a pit and buried everything. Then they burned the vehicle to the ground. Chris believed he had cleaned up every trace. Even if someone found it, it would take a long time before the news reached the bully's father. But he seemed to have underestimated his enemy. Those people had controlled this area for decades. Their informants were everywhere. Only 2 days later, an unwelcome visitor came knocking. A man calling himself Baptiste showed up. He claimed he was interested in the avocados from Chris's orchard, and wanted to buy them in large quantities. During the conversation, Baptiste casually brought up the murder of the local bully. In the woods not far from there, a burned pickup truck had been found. There were 2 machine guns inside, but the people who had been in the truck were gone. Not far from the vehicle, 3 bodies had been dug up. They turned out to be the missing son of the crime boss Zavis, and his 2 men. The cautious Chris immediately sensed something was wrong. Although Baptiste looked polite and refined, Chris, who had survived the battlefield, could sense the faint killing intent coming from him. Especially after Baptiste's so-called bodyguard appeared, Chris became even more certain. The 2 men had come prepared, and they most likely already suspected him. Baptiste stood up to leave. Chris moved his girlfriend Esther behind him. His full attention stayed on the bodyguard. Fortunately, nothing happened. The moment Baptiste left, Chris immediately told Esther to pack their things. He confessed that he was the one who had killed the bully. Baptiste had obviously come to confirm it. Their identities and location had already been exposed. The retaliation would come soon. Esther believed him, and immediately started packing. Chris temporarily left the farm in his brother's care. He knew he probably would not be coming back anytime soon. After leaving, they drove straight to Marco's house. Chris had already been exposed. That meant Marco was probably in danger too. The silence around the house felt unnatural. He told Esther to stay in the car. Chris walked toward the house alone. It was obvious he had arrived too late. A man covered in blood walked out of the house. Chris took the man down and bent over to pick up his gun. But as soon as he picked it up, he realized he had hit too hard and bent the barrel. Then Chris carefully walked into the house. Inside, he found Marco lying lifeless in the bathtub. The 17-year-old boy had been dragged into this and murdered. Things were now spiraling out of control. Chris hurried back to Esther. He told her to leave immediately. He told her to drive to the parking lot of the restaurant they always went to. There would be more people there, making it relatively safer. Chris would meet her there later. Esther did as she was told, and drove away. Chris returned to the house and laid Marco's body to rest. He wanted the boy to leave this world with dignity. Then he picked up the short knife from the sink. He knew that from this moment on, the only way to survive was to fight back.